Welcome to my guide on how to set up enchanting for concentration crafting. The first step here is to learn enchanting. Now we go pick up all of the one-time treasures. The first of which is the silver Dornagal rod at coordinates 58.056.9. Each of these treasures gains us 3 skill points, and there are 2 in each zone. Some easy skill points for just flying around looking for dirt piles that we would have to do anyway. The second treasure is the grinded earthen gem in the Isle of Dorn at coordinates 57.6, 61.1. Next, we head down into the ringing deeps to collect a soot-coated orb at 44.6, 22.3. Followed by the animated enchanting dust at 67.1, 65.9. There are 3 mobs here, so you will need to be able to kill them. I have had times on some undergeared alts where I was not able to kill the 3 mobs here. If you struggle, don't worry too much, it just means that we will have to make up those skill points through the catch-up system later. Here, we notice our first dirt pile and pick up the first of the weekly treasures, the powdered fulgurance. Don't you love it when you get stuck in combat and can't mount up? I miss my night elf. Next, I head into Ajkarhead to the Weaver's Lair for a void shard at 57.3, 44.1. You can do Hallowfall first and use the portal to get back to Dornagal, but Ajkarhead is closer, and I like hunting for treasures in Hallowfall as I just prefer that zone over the others. Purely a personal choice. Next up, we have the Book of Dark Magic in the City of Threads, Umbral Bazaar at 61.5, 21.7. Now we go to the enchanting vendor to pick up a knowledge book for some kedge and 10 knowledge points. Again, if you don't have enough kedge, don't worry too much, it's just another 10 knowledge points that you will need to pick up from the catch-up system. Of course, it helps not to be blind and miss the currency you are looking for in the currency window. Now that we are done with Ajkarhead, we head up to Hallowfall to collect the Essence of Holy Fire at 40.0, 70.5. Looking around like a madman apparently, to keep an eye out for any dirt piles. This is then rapidly followed by the enchanted Arathi scroll at 48.6, 64.5. I was planning to cut this section of the video, as it just shows me failing and dying to some stupidity, but decided to leave it in for a little comic relief. I learned a little while ago that using an inky black potion makes the dirt pile stand out much more. However, it turns out that the inky black potion trick only works in the Isle of Dorn as the other zones are already too dark, or the fact that they are underground means it won't have any effect. Now for some ultra-riveting gameplay while I hunt around for dirt piles and treasures, looking for the crystalline repository that we need to kickstart the catch-up process. The catch-up system for enchanting requires that you have done the weekly quest and obtained the 2 weekly treasures from dirt piles around the world. If you don't do these 2, 3 things, then you won't get any shimmering dust when you disenchant items that give you the catch-up knowledge points. This is honestly the most frustrating part of the process, and I for one am glad that I only have to do it once per character and not every week on multiple characters like we did back in Dragonflight. Also, I tend to get sidetracked easily, so whenever I see enemies that I apparently need for a quest, I feel like I have to go kill them. Finally, the crystalline repository. Time to head back to the enchanting trainer in Dornagal to actually start leveling up our profession. Funny how much non-profession outdoor prep we have to do our professions these days. Bummer, forgot to change my Hearthstone to Dornagal. While I'm here, I thought it might be a good idea to try and pick up one of the 10 knowledge point books from the renowned vendor. Forgetting, of course, that you need artisan's acuity to buy them. And since I haven't done anything to actually learn any knowledge points yet, I don't have nearly enough of that. Time to obtain some profession tools. I will make an effort to try and make sure there are enough of these in the guild bank for you, but here I have to buy my own without spending a crazy amount of gold, as sometimes these can be extremely overpriced. If you do need to buy them yourself, typically, I would expect to pay 100 to 1000 gold for a rune bismuth rod, 70 gold to 200 gold for the weaver cloth enchanter's hat, and 100 to 1500 gold for the incanter's shard. We want the rod and shard to be eye level 564 and the hat to be eye level 551. All at rank 5. For our rune bismuth rod, we are looking for resourcefulness and/or ingenuity stats. Resourcefulness increases the chances that we will get some of our crafting materials back, meaning that the craft costs less. Ingenuity procs will refund the concentration used for that craft, meaning that we can press the button more frequently. Fewer used resources equals more profits. More concentration crafts equals more profits. As I use the CraftSim add-on, I like to set up my tools in CraftSim as it will automatically switch tools for me, based on what I am crafting and what it thinks will be more profitable. Resourcefulness, multicraft, ingenuity or crafting speed. Generally for enchanting, it is always going to be resourcefulness, but since we are making a concentration build, sometimes ingenuity will win out. Multicraft only applies to mana oils as those are currently the only items that we can craft multiple items at a time. Here you can see me setting up a shopping list for Auctionator. These materials should be available in the guild bank for you. But just in case, I will provide this to you in the document and description of the video, and just makes buying all the materials easier. You will notice that I don't get the quantities quite right first time around, as I used the quantities from WoW Professions and then didn't follow their guide. But that's okay, my goals are slightly different to theirs. If you look closely, you will notice here that because I entered the quantity in the shopping list, those quantities are already pre-filled when I go to try and buy the item. This is handy when you want to buy lots of multiple items and don't feel like typing in the number of items you want on each screen, especially if you need to do it multiple times. In the event you do need to buy your own materials, The quality, or rank, of the materials doesn't actually matter while we are leveling up, as we don't actually care about what quality or rank of item we create. Just get the cheapest of each. You can freely mix any number of any material qualities for any craft. Something we will be using to our advantage later on. Next up, it's time to buy some Darkmoon cards. We use these to create Darkmoon decks, as this is currently the easiest and cheapest way to get disenchant fodder. Additionally, as these create epic items, they have a much higher chance of giving us both the weekly disenchanting knowledge point items and the shimmering dust catch-up knowledge point items. Here I am looking for which deck is likely to be cheapest. This changes all the time, so a little bit of mental calculation is advantageous. In case you are wondering where I got the 297 number from, you might notice that in the Muse Week aura, to the left, it lists 297 as the amount of knowledge points I can gain from shimmering dust. The actual requirement to make this successful is closer to 150, so don't feel like you have to sink in so much time and gold. But more knowledge points gives us more options later, without having to hunt for dirt piles again. Now begins the rather long boring process of converting those Darkmoon cards into Darkmoon deck trinkets. Then disenchanting them for shimmering dust, and then using the shimmering dust to gain knowledge points and artisan's acuity. I like to set up a couple of macros, which are bound to my scroll wheel or Xbox controller, so that I can do this while doing other, non-WoW activities and don't really have to pay any attention to the game. The downside of this method is that sometimes you keep going long after your inventory is full. And then if you are a full-on muppet, like me, you keep going with the rest of the things you need to do, like trying to disenchant those Darkmoon decks, without realizing your inventory is full. Despite half the screen telling you that your inventory is indeed full and that you can't carry any more. At least I finally catch on and decide to vendor some greys now. Finally having caught on to this. Now we can set up a macro to disenchant the items for us, and attach it back to the same keybind to resume our semi-AFK button mashing. Since disenchanting gives us skill points up to level 25, we can use this to level up and then get the quest from the trainer. This quest is very important, as without both it and the 2 weekly treasures we collected earlier, we won't trigger the catch-up system. Our first shimmering dust catch-up knowledge point item. With what I hope is a sufficient number of knowledge points, I'm honestly just bored at this point. Let's learn some new stuff from the profession trainer. Promptly followed by putting some knowledge points into ephemerals, enrichments, and equipment. 5 points into the core node, followed by 15 points into deceptive decorations. The reason we do this is because it gives us all of our knowledge points back from the first time craft bonus, essentially making these free, gives us a nice chunk of artisan's acuity and also gives us access to easy patron orders later on that you can use to get more artisan's acuity or even crystallized augment runes, which you can either use or sell as you like. Did I mention that I didn't follow the guide? And bought the wrong number of materials? Don't forget to pick up the enchanting vellums. Now I just go through all the recipes I know, and craft one of them in order to pick up all of the first-time bonus rewards. Ideally the ones with the lowest chance to give me a skill point first, as I want to get all the points I can. Don't use any concentration just yet, as we will want this for actually profitable crafts. At this point, I can just work my way through all of the gleeful glamours. Did I mention that I didn't follow the guide? And bought the wrong number of materials? Here we exhaust the glamours we picked up solely from the specialization, and it's time to learn some more stuff from the trainer. Did I mention that I didn't follow the guide? And bought the wrong number of materials? Here I make a small fluff. In that I take supplementary shattering with resourceful residue to get the buff that gives me resourcefulness procs, without then shattering anything to get the aforementioned buff. What you should do here is actually shatter an essence, such as leyline residue, viridescent spores, writhing sample or crystalline powder, whichever is cheaper. Usually crystalline powder. This gives you a temporary buff called Shattered Essence that empowers you with an additional 185 resourcefulness, ingenuity and multicraft towards your enchanting crafts. Save the weapon enchants here as these are expensive to craft, and the next step is to learn everlasting enchantments, meaning that we can craft them using concentration soon to get rank 3 enchants with just rank 1, and maybe some rank 2 materials. Max out everlasting enchantments and then pick a random branch to learn for yourself. Personally, I have a different branch for each character. Each of the branches reflect each of the primary renown tracks. And each renown vendor will offer you one or more enchanting formulas you can buy from them. These are often worth much more than the other items you can craft, as fewer people bother to go get them. If you take earthen enhancements, I suggest you go get the formula from the renown vendor in Dornagal. If you take Arotha alterations, head to the Renown vendor in Hallowfall. If you take Nerubian novelties, then make your way to Ajkarhet. At this point, having picked a branch, I like to go and set all the items I can craft with that branch to favorite. This makes them easier to find later and means that I know I have specced into these and will have an easier time crafting them for higher profits. You'll notice here that I can't quite make a rank 3 enchant yet using just rank 1 materials. So I need to either buy some rank 2 materials, or continue to skill up enchanting a bit more. As there is little I can craft right now which gives me any real rewards, I opt to buy some rank 2 materials, and use my concentration to start making a profit while leveling up. This right here is the most important button in the game from a gold-making perspective, and is what we have been working to all this time. Failure to press this concentration button will almost always result in losses, while using it often results in some very big gains. This is what this entire build is based on. You will also notice the concentration value in the top left. I may have mentioned already that you can use any mix of rank 1, rank 2, or rank 3 materials in any combination to craft something. The different mixes will affect your effective skill level proportionally. The end goal is always to use the maximum number of whatever the cheapest materials are. Importantly, please note that this is not always the rank 1 materials. Sometimes the rank 2 materials are cheaper, reaching a rank 2 crafted item. We were now able with concentration to craft at rank 3. This means that we can buy some additional rank 2 materials to increase our effective skill level and hit the threshold needed to be able to craft a rank 3 enchant. Thanks for watching.